exactly was Grant's order of Jewish expulsion? What was it? And then
Um,
some of the
sure.
reasons or the reason behind it.
So many of, excuse me, the generals are of the opinion that if we could cut off smuggling between the North and the South, the Civil War would end. It was really smuggling that was allowing the South both to get its cotton out, which gave it money, and also to bring in all sorts of finished goods, which kept the South alive. The South didn't produce much, except primary natural resources and growing things. So smuggling in both directions kept the South going. The general said, if you cut off the smuggling, the war will have to end. We will starve out the South, just like in the Bible, Jericho, if it's all walled up. So a lot of these generals really believed that the smugglers were Jews. Now, it's worth remembering how that happened. No question, some of the people caught smuggling were Jews, and they said, well, because some Jews are smugglers, they then reached the conclusion all smugglers are Jews. And in the Civil War, you can see in newspapers that smuggler and Jew are sometimes used as synonyms. Grant, who didn't know much about Jews, but he certainly saw smuggling. He was concerned about it. We know that his own father cooks up a deal with the Mack brothers in Mack family in Cincinnati, a very significant clothiers. And of course, they need cotton, otherwise they can't make any clothes. So they persuade Grant's father, you help us move cotton from the south to the north, and you'll get part of the money. And Grant's father, who had a very complicated relationship with his son, said, sure, I'll go ask Ulysses. And of course, Ulysses sees through this at once and understands what's going on, and he's furious. But instead of expelling his father, he sits down and says, these Jews, they're all smuggling. And he expels Jews as a class. And that was the problem. Had he said, I'm expelling Jewish smugglers, wouldn't it be nice, but I don't think the same thing happened. But Jews as a class, he writes, meaning all Jews in this whole area. He was at that point general just of the Army of the Tennessee, but it's a huge area, including the largest Jewish community in the South, which is Memphis, is under that command. So he puts out this order. At the end of the day, for reasons that I talk about in the book, very few Jews are actually expelled. But what is important in terms of your earlier question is as this order becomes known, and one of the things that happens is that an expelled Jew from Paducah publicizes the order. He wisely brings it with him everywhere he goes after being expelled. He like, Paul Revere in his day, he says the Jews are being expelled. Here's the order, proof. And it's carried on the AP wire, which is a very important new source of news in the Civil War. And pretty soon everybody hears of Grant's order. And what's amazing is rabbis, both traditional rabbis and Reform rabbis, they understand this is an unprecedented danger. Jews are being expelled like in Spain. Whoever imagined in America Jews as a class could be expelled? So we see a wide group of Jews coming to Washington. Now, as it happened, Lincoln had already overturned the order. The first Jew was expelled, went to Washington, and meets with Lincoln. Lincoln didn't know anything about the order. And the reason he didn't was that wires had been cut and a lot of things weren't getting to Washington. And as soon as he sees the order, he overturns it. Again, the greatness of Lincoln, that he doesn't say, well, let me find out. I'll inquire as to what's going on. He sees an order that he cannot abide. He reverses that order instantly, and that saves the day.